Welcome, everybody, to the January 23rd, 2024 Police Commission meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll have the chief lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to make a motion to move the appointment of the commission chair and clerk and representative of the city ethics committee up to the beginning of the agenda.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I move to appoint Commissioner Coyle as chair.
Second?
And I'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Furland,
Yes.
Commissioner Scher,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. And for appointment of the clerk, do I have a motion on that? Do we want to?
I can't make a
Okay.
motion to
Would you like
appoint
to?
myself.
Okay. I move to appoint Commissioner Scher clerk
Oh, I second.
and Commissioner Furland. Bernald, sorry.
It's,
I'm sorry, Bernald.
yes.
Commissioner Scher.
Yes.
And I also vote yes. All right, I will take a motion at this point to suspend the agenda to move items number 1 and 2 for the swearing-in ceremony and the city manager's report for the fiscal year 25 budget requests under the chief's report.
So moved.
Second, yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Police Commission meeting, the first of the year. Tonight, we'll start with the swearing in of our 3 newest police officers. The 3 of you guys would like to stand up. The first officer we'll recognize and swear in is Owen Rand. Owen's local to the Seacoast, growing up in Greenland. He graduated from Portsmouth High School and went on to receive an associate's degree in criminal justice from Horry Georgetown Technical College in Conway, South Carolina. He begins 196 full-time police academy on February 12th, 2024. Owen, if you come over here. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Owen Rand,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform all duties
discharge and perform all duties
incumbent on me
incumbent on me
as a police officer,
as a police officer,
constable, and night watchman
constable, and night watchman
of said city of Portsmouth,
of said city of Portsmouth,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
agreeable to the rules and regulations of the Constitution,
agreeable to the rules and regulations of the Constitution,
laws of the state of New Hampshire,
laws of the state of New Hampshire,
and the rules and regulations
and the rules and regulations
of the city of Portsmouth.
of the city of Portsmouth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
You can put your hand down. By virtue of the authority vested in me through the Police Commission and RSA 105-C, trusting in your integrity and fidelity, do hereby constitute and appoint you a police officer, constable, and night watchman of said city of Portsmouth with all the power and authority and subject to all the duties and liabilities provided by law. Your grandfather's going to come and pin you?
Or my father.
Oh, your father?
actually, yes.
Okay. You can come on up. There you go. So step. Just put it in. Just let it down. You can put it. Next is Eric Cross. Eric's a native of New England, originally from Vermont, where he received a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Castleton State College. He was also a soccer player there. He went on to serve 6 years in the U.S. Army after college before deciding to pursue his career in law enforcement. He'll join Owen in attending the next full-time police academy starting next month. Congratulations. We're all going to swear you in. We'll get this right. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Eric Cross,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform all duties
discharge and perform all duties
incumbent on me
incumbent on me
as a police officer,
as a police officer,
constable,
constable,
and night watchman
and night watchman
of said city of Portsmouth,
of said city of Portsmouth,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
agreeable to the rules and regulations of the Constitution,
agreeable to the rules and regulations of the Constitution,
laws of the state of New Hampshire,
laws of the state of New Hampshire,
and the rules and regulations of the city of Portsmouth.
and the rules and regulations of the city of Portsmouth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right, you can put your hand down. By virtue of the authority vested in me through the Police Commission and RSA 105-C, trusting in your integrity and fidelity, do hereby constitute and appoint you a police officer, constable, and night watchman of said city of Portsmouth, with all the power and authority and subject to all the duties and liabilities provided by law. Congratulations. Gonna have your dad come up and How you doing? Next is Mac Dalton, Mackenzie Dalton. He goes by Mac. Step on up, Mac. Mac spent 3.5 years working as a deputy sheriff for the Orange County Sheriff's Department before moving to Texas, where he was hired by the Houghton, Texas. How do you say it? Hutto, Texas Police Department. He served 4 years in both patrol and detective division, and recently moved to Hooksett, New Hampshire, with his wife and newborn son. Mac will enter the department's 16-week field training program and will be beginning on the job starting immediately. Swear you in. Put your right hand up. I state your name.
I, Mackenzie Dalton,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform all duties
discharge and perform all duties
incumbent on me
incumbent on me
as a police officer,
as a police officer, constable,
and night watchman
and night watchman
of said city of Portsmouth,
of said city of Portsmouth,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
agreeable to the rules and regulations of the Constitution,
agreeable to the rules and regulations of the Constitution,
laws of the state of New Hampshire,
laws of the state of New Hampshire,
and the rules and regulations of city of Portsmouth.
and the rules and regulations of the city of Portsmouth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
By virtue of the authority vested in me through the Police Commission and RSA 105-C, trusting in your integrity and fidelity, do hereby constitute you and appoint you a police officer, constable, and night watchman of said city of Portsmouth, with all the power and authority and subject to all duties and liabilities provided by the law. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That one went in. That will be the end of our ceremony. If you guys like to stay, you can. You can stay to hear the city manager come and talk about our upcoming budget if you'd like. But I'm sure you have things you'd much rather be doing. Mike, let me get a picture of the three of these guys.
Please wait so that it can do one of the
Completely forgot to make a motion to it. Oh, you're like.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's okay.
I just noticed those, I don't know, things when they grabs, and it says like, don't come in, sit. And I'm
Yeah, I know.
like, whoops.
And to the point where I'm not like.
Perfect.
You're so funny.
Yeah.
She does it.
She let go of the leash or that went straight to her.
She don't tell me. Dropped it right to you.
All right. It's nice to see some new officers, and now we welcome City Manager to present on the report for the fiscal year 25 budget. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me and my colleague Judy Belanger, the Director of Finance and Administration for the city. And this is a little unprecedented, right? I understand from having visited the Fire Commission while we were together a couple weeks ago. They said, you know, the city manager's never come to a meeting and talked about the budget before the budget. But these are becoming more unprecedented times, and we very much appreciate the partnership and cooperation we have with the chief, with the deputy chief, with the entire staff, and Karen. And just to set the stage, in the previous budget years, we, as you know, we were all hit with and reacted conservatively to, and then literally climbed pretty successfully out of the COVID years. We feel good about where we are today. And during that time, we slashed capital, we delayed rolling stock, and with the support of the prior council, that is the current council, we were able to use the last two budgets to rebuild and return to follow our longstanding fiscal policies to support the long-term funding plans. We also gained hugely in the last budget, most notably police and fire and school, with some of the the adjustments, both COLA and adjustments to salary for retention and recruitment purposes. So we recognize that as well. But this year, with the 10-year rolling average of the Consumer Price Index coming way down from a high of 7% to as low as 2.69, we feel the need to send the message early to pull back, to recognize where we are with inflation, cost increases, some of the unknowns, given all the knowns that we do have, and to look at the upcoming fiscal year as one of austerity, efficiency, and I think we need to be very careful about how we spend and what we spend it on. And as the council will do, they'll re-articulate their priorities. But just alone with the CIP that we've kicked off, things like capital outlay and the debt service that we're looking at, and I don't need to tell you all what's contributing to the debt service coming up, along with trying to bring back rolling stock, we have some pretty significant increases to the non-operating or sort of non-negotiable part of the budget, if you will. So we had a staff meeting with department heads back in December, right around the week of Christmas, which was really well received, right? Holidays, and please be frugal. The message was I think it would make the most sense to stick as close to the CPI rolling average of 2.69. However, that's also the amount of the COLA, and that does not take into account some of the salary adjustments, and Judy may expound on that as well. So right out of the gate, we have that challenge. The good news is that retirement rates, because we're in the second year of a biennium, will stay the same. But the other thing that's going to take place in this calendar year that's going to have an impact on taxpayers, even though it's separate and apart from the budget process, will be the revaluation. That has not happened for 5 years. It will definitely make impacts with all of our ratepayers. So the budget is separate in that it's the tool that drives the tax rate, which reflects the services we provide, and the revaluation is mutually exclusive of any budget process, but they're both hitting at about the same time. So just in case people are watching at home and thinking, how are they not related, or how are they related, reevaluation has the effect of redistributing in a fair and equitable manner who pays what in taxes in recognition of fair market value, which we all know has increased dramatically in this community, more so for residential than for commercial. So all that to say, it would be great to have the police, along with fire and school, all the charter groups, along with general government, to come in as thoughtfully and as low as possible while still being able to maintain the level of service that people have come to expect. And the last thing I would say before I'll ask Judy if she wants to add anything is the council will take up we'll hear a budget preview from the two of us. It will be a little more in-depth tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. We've encouraged the Fire Commission and the school board to attend in addition to the department heads, and we would welcome your attendance there as well. Judy, what did I miss?
Thank you. Didn't really miss anything. I just wanted to highlight that, again, tomorrow we will be focusing on some of the highlights for the budget. We all work together. This is probably my 25th or 26th budget with the city. So, and every year I feel like we always say, this is going to be the toughest year. But in hindsight, I'm looking back in the previous years, and this is going to be a very challenging year. Because with the new council, the revaluation, and we're working with everybody, we're working with the non-operating budget, and we do recognize that in the operating budget, about 80% of the operating budget is salaries and benefits. And the council voted on a lot of kind of restructuring some of the salaries for the fire and the police and across the board in the last couple of years. So we do recognize it's going to be challenging, and we're hoping that we all work together and bring in the budget as low as possible.
And we're happy to answer any questions now or throughout the process.
Does anybody have any questions?
Not right now.
I guess I can speak for the commission when I say that we appreciate your efforts and our collaboration, and that going forward, I think we all will take the approach of being as fiscally responsible as possible while still providing the highest level of service. So thank you for coming to speak to us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
meeting.
So with that, we'll move on to section 3, and I'll take a motion for an acceptance of the minutes of the meeting held on December 19th, 2023.
So moved.
And I'll second that. Commissioner Scher?
Aye.
Commissioner Fernald?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, and I vote yes. So that's a 2-0-1. Now it's time for public comment. It is
Full house.
the full house, and by full house, we have no one here. So we'll move on to new business. I'll start with going back to the appointment of chair and clerk. I just want to thank my fellow commissioners for appointing me chair. I think everyone would agree, and I certainly feel there are big shoes to fill following Commissioner Shaheen, but I will do my best to live up to those big shoes. And I also want to welcome Commissioner Fernald to the commission. You have so many ties to the community, and you're so connected to the community that you are a welcome asset to the commission. And we are very fortunate to have you here, so welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words.
All right, with that, and so now we move to the representative on the City Ethics Committee. So Deputy Chief, do you have the pulling the name out of the hat? Drum roll.
Congratulations, Commissioner Scher.
Called it.
Good.
So facilities update. Chief, do you have any update on the restoration efforts?
We're just continuing, moving forward with what's been going on over the past several months. We just outfitted the new captain's office. Well, updated, refreshed it, I would say. We are going to continue with that. as we approach the CIP, we asked for an additional $400,000 to continue making some of the updates that we've been putting off, do the mold remediation, and we still have the dispatch center that we still need to complete the remediation on.
Do we have a timeline on any of those with the dispatch center?
The dispatch center is relying on some updates that need to be done over at Fire Station 2, which we've been progressively working on and is continuing on. So until that's done, we won't be able to put together a hard calendar on when we'll start the remediation project again.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay. With respect to the community policing facility planning, I can speak to that briefly. So last week, the chief gave a wonderful presentation to the city council. After listening, the commission and the working group, listening to the feedback from the city council, the epiphany, and I think that came from the chief as we were sitting in the meeting room looking out into the front of the building, that there's an opportunity to look at developing a new facility outside the front of the building using some existing space, and that this would have maybe be the most cost-effective approach while providing the needs of a new police facility. So we're at a point where we're going to look at that. That requires a lot of geotech to see, and that work is happening or the early stages of that is happening as we speak. And we're also still looking at Granite Street as an alternative location. So that work's going to happen. We're looking to meet back with the city council in April to have further discussions, hopefully with some more data on, based on what comes out of the geotech and some more work with the group. Does anybody else have any questions or considerations? The other aspect I just wanted to mention is that I know Karen, you've been involved in looking at the BRIC grant opportunities for the building facility, and I think your thoroughness, no rock will be unturned in terms of grant opportunities. In terms of community priorities, the crime analyst report, that information has been posted to the website. Deputy Chief, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So after last month's commission meeting, we made an effort to make more publicly available those particular stats. So it's currently a work in progress to backfill and include more statistics. However, the statistics section of our website already has year-end review stats for 2023 comparative to 2022, as well as several years of accreditation statistics. And the accreditation statistics cover everything from motor vehicle stops, the calls for service, to arrest, and then the demographic breakdown of each. So, and there's also included on our website is a link to the FBI's statistical reporting page, which is additional federally reported crimes that we report out monthly and ultimately yearly to the FBI.
So that provides access for the public to see some of the encounter data. That's wonderful. Thank you for your efforts. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay. With that, I'll turn it over to the chief.
I don't have much more to add. We had the swearing-in ceremony, and the manager presented a budget, and, you know, we will look to be fiscal responsible. It's going to be tight, as, you know, they stated that just our salaries alone is probably going to put us at that number, so are real close to it, or maybe even over it.
Probably.
But we will, you know, look, the request was try not to add anything new, so we're going to try to hold the line on that and just progress forward with what we have and try to stay within the budget. As far as the monthly traffic stats, Mike will have those.
So for December of 2023, to close out the year, we had 671 total motor vehicle stops, which again included a number of increased grant-funded patrols in and around the holiday and the New Year. 27 motor vehicle summonses were issued, and 48 reportable motor vehicle crashes for the month.
That's great. And just going back to some of the crime analyst report, it does look like we have had a fairly significant, like almost a increase in calls for services
Yeah.
from 22.
Yeah, there was a slight increase, less than 1% increase in overall calls for service. And again, a deeper dive into what those calls were for and what we did. Again, year to year, we average around 50,000, and last year in 2023, we came in at 49,291, which is right on par typically with what we do. And there's a further breakdown comparative to 23 and 22 with respect to DWI arrests, reports taken, motor vehicle stops. A lot of the things we like to see go down did go down, so that's encouraging. And they don't go down by accident. They go down by all the hard work that the men and women do out there on a daily basis. So as we go into 2024, we'll continue to look at these numbers and adjust our resources accordingly as to what the community is asking us to do. And we'll try to lower those numbers even more. And when it comes to motor vehicle stops, we'll try to increase them if we can increase them as well. But numbers will rise in large part. In some instances, statistics will go higher or lower depending on what the community is asking us to do. For example, you may see a dip in proactive motor vehicle stops if we were spending a considerable amount of time at our schools. And a number of instances, last year we had the threats to our school. We had an active shooter threat at the high school. The community was asking us to have a presence at the schools, So the motor vehicle stops during that chunk of time will dip because you can't be at the high school and stop a car on South Street at the same time. So the numbers are also reflective of what our community is asking us to do, and occasionally it changes from time to time. So that also adds to the fluctuation as to why some numbers are higher and lower at other times of the year.
And I think in terms of the community requesting your presence on a number of those significant incidents this year, the presence was really, really fantastic, very responsive, and due to fast actions of the police department, really got, de-escalated or eliminated potential threats. So thank you.
I think I'd just like to add on these stats here, something that sticks out to me is the mental health calls between the IEA's mental health and also dealing with juveniles. I think with the mobile crisis teams that are out there, it's definitely an impact. And I would hope when our social worker comes online that those numbers will continue to digress. Keep our fingers crossed, but I think some of the things we've done in the community addressing mental health is definitely showing in the numbers that we have here.
In that vein, what's the response time been, loosely, that you can judge for the mobile crisis unit? Do we have any sense, or is that hard to track given those calls don't necessarily come into the police department?
Yeah, I couldn't give you a number off the top of my head. I think overall we've been happy in the responses that we've gotten. It hasn't been an issue where, officers are making us aware that it's taken forever for response teams to get there. So the system's been working. Initially the rollout was a little bit bumpy, but I think it's working pretty fluidly now. And there's times when we don't get called, they get called, and there's times that they call us where they're on scene, and vice versa, calls that we go to and we call them and they handle the situation. The bigger part, I think, is just the follow-up and the continued places that we used to be going time after time after time. It was significantly cut down, so that is significantly working. And again, once our social workers in place, we hope those numbers will continue to move downward trend.
Thank you.
So we're finding that when we do get the mobile crisis team involved, that there is that follow-up to reduce the return call volume?
Yeah, I
mean,
think
anecdotally,
there's more
right?
of a push to get them towards the services and resources of where they can go to, where they're not calling us all the time.
That's great. Does anybody have anything? No? Karen, would you like to give us the
Sure.
financial report?
Sure. The financial report shows we're tracking almost 4% under the cap for this time period. So we're tracking well for this part in the fiscal year. But my sights are on preparing the FY25 budget for the next month. We have our public hearing on February 14th at 5:30. I know the city manager said, overall, 80% is salaries and benefits. In the police department, it's 85%, which leaves about 15% for other operating. And those other operating costs on July 1st, when the fiscal year starts, are set. For computer software maintenance agreements, the rolling COLA may be 2.69, but a lot of times our computer software maintenance agreements, which total about 500,000 about, they go up 10 to 15%. So we're working with this, and I did want to say that the 2.69%, that's the overall city is where they're trying to track, and they look at all their revenues and everything else. So we may track a little higher, but it may be offset elsewhere. Unless there's a new program or new staff member, the impacts to our budgets are primarily insurance costs, the health, the workers' comp and whatnot, bargaining unit costs, as I said, the computer software maintenance agreements, and then minor increases like for veterinary care and things like that. So there's really not a lot of places to cut unless you want to cut staff, and we don't want to cut staff. In terms of grants, we're in the process, I think I said last time, of reviewing a CERT team grant for $11,000. Not sure what that can be used for just yet. Also stated the FEMA brick grant. I went online and looked at a lot of that. Definitely going to need a lot of Ian Reeves, our architect's assistance on that. He's done several, so we have to make sure that we qualify for it first, and where we're looking at an addition. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. So we're just going to have to talk with him. Once we settle on a body cam product, we've seen 2 demos. They're putting a side-by-side comparison of that. Once we decide on one, then we can submit a grant for that once we have the financials at a known cost of what we're looking for. And then basically we're looking at our 2025 goals and objectives, and if there's a program or whatever that we can seek grant funds for, we will do that.
Question. Assuming the body cams, the onboarding of body cams occurs sometime next budget year, understanding there's an item in the CIP, the capital improvement budget, that deals with the original purchase, is there going to be a amount that's going to go into the budget that hasn't been in there in the past because of body cams?
There will. When I had my meeting with the finance department, we looked at multiple different ways to handle this in the CIP, part of it in the CIP, part of our budget, or all in CIP, et cetera. So in that exercise, we're having both vendors put in just equipment costs and then the recurring software maintenance costs, storage costs, all that sort of stuff, broken out from the original equipment costs. So we're in the process of getting that organized, and I have a feeling that Judy will be presenting to the council multiple different avenues to fund these. So.
Thank you.
And and then the consideration of sort of the actual internal maintenance in terms of staff or personnel who's going to operate the systems, right?
Right. I mean, both vendors say, oh, you're not going to need anybody, but you talk to other police departments and you do need people to ask with that.
Yeah, I think a portion of that will probably end up in the city attorney's budget for processing requests and discovery requests and things like that. So that will be outside our budget. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we have received reports from Patrol and the Court Office report. So as we discussed on February 14th, 2024, at 5:30, Chief Newport, along with the commission, will present the police department's proposed fiscal year 25 budget at a public hearing. That's going to be in Conference Room A in the City Hall, so we encourage all members of the public, please come and attend, ask your questions or comments. We welcome feedback, and with that, our next regular meeting is going to be Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. And check the municipal calendar on the website for any meeting updates. And I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.